Behind me is the all-new Acura RDX. This entry-level SUV starts at around $37,000 and on paper offers buyers incredible value for the money. That said, the compact luxury SUV segment is exploding in popularity and extremely competitive. To that end, two competitors to the Acura RDX, the Lexus NX and the Infiniti QX50, are right on its tail. So, which of these three luxury SUVs is the best of the bunch? It's time to find out. Hello everyone, you join me inside a 2019 Infiniti QX50. This luxury SUV is one of the most fascinating new cars on the market, and let me tell you why. It's the engine. This is the first ever production car to use what Infiniti refers to as a variable compression turbocharged engine. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This revolutionary new tech means this turbocharged direct fuel injected 4-cylinder engine can go from 8-to-1 compression all the way to 14-to-1 compression. Basically what that means is this engine can optimize itself for a perfect blend of performance and efficiency. And that sounds great on paper, but we need to see how it works in the real world. So all new for 2019, this Infiniti QX50 is packing Infiniti's brand new VC turbo engine, as I just said. It's good for 268 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. And in the real world, it feels pretty substantial. The engine picks up nicely and actually has a pretty aggressive induction note to it, a nice metallic thrum. That engine is paired to a CVT gearbox, a continuously variable transmission. But that CVT has a manual mode where it'll actually replicate having 8-stepped gears like a conventional gearbox. It feels odd to say for a CVT, but the way it emulates shifting is actually very quick and very precise. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is a ZF8 speed or any of the other gearboxes in the segment. That said, the overall effect is very, very smooth around town. A combination of a CVT transmission and a turbocharged engine gives the QX50 a sort of elasticity, a feeling of sort of never-ending power being available on tap at any given time. The Infiniti QX50 has a base price of $36,550 in the United States. That said, if you tick every single options box like this press car has, the price tag swells to just over $59,000. That said, the level of materials and the fit and finish and the quality of this car easily justifies that price tag. Look around the interior in this car. It's a beautiful blend of colors and textures and materials. I'm especially a big fan of this trim right here. It's a beautifully finished wood material that I've never seen in any other car before. It's really gorgeous in person. While this fully loaded $59,000 example is obviously beautifully appointed, the standard car for $36,000 offers a lot of value and offers a lot of great standardized content. Of course, the VC turbo engine is standard equipment. There's also Infiniti's Pro Pilot Assist system, which is their suite of safety technologies. That includes forward assist, lane assist, blind spot monitoring, steering assist, and emergency assist, which is basically automatic braking if it thinks you're going to crash the car. All that technology works together to offer a very relaxing drive in the Infiniti QX50. You don't worry about things like congestion and traffic because the systems kind of take care of you. They have your back. If someone's sitting in your blind spot and you want to change lanes, the car's going to let you know. Being a two-row luxury SUV, the Infiniti QX50 easily seats 5 people in here. There's tons of headroom back here, and there is plenty of leg and knee room. I'm 6'1", and I can very comfortably sit in the back seat. So I've mentioned the variable compression turbocharged engine and the CVT gearbox. Those two things work together to make for a pretty fuel-efficient ride. The EPA rates the QX50 as doing 24 miles to the gallon in the city, and 30 miles to the gallon on the freeway with all-wheel drive, and 31 miles to the gallon on the freeway with two-wheel drive. That results in a combined fuel economy score of 26 mpg for all-wheel drive and 27 mpg for the two-wheel drive car. That's really impressive for a luxury SUV, and it shows how little compromise there really is with this thing as an everyday vehicle. Also, when it comes to everyday usage and lack of compromise, this is a pretty engaging car to drive. Now, obviously, it's not a sports car, it's a luxury SUV, but the engine's responsive, the transmission's pretty quick on its toes, and although the electric power steering is a little bit light, like pretty much every car in the segment, this is a pretty engaging, fun thing to drive. You can chuck it into a corner and it's going to hang on pretty well. The luxury SUV segment is a very competitive one these days. Thanks to its growing popularity, basically all the manufacturers have their hands in this segment. To that end, Infiniti clearly benchmarked some of the best in the industry when designing a lot of things on this car. Take, for example, the Infiniti InTouch infotainment system. This dual screen setup offers the driver a lot of control. There's a lot of buttons and a lot of things to play with. That said, Infiniti hasn't gone overboard like some other manufacturers have. There are still physical buttons and knobs, which I'm a huge advocate of. While these slick touchscreens are very nice to play with, when you're actually driving a car, you can't often focus on the fancy screen. So having some buttons and knobs, even if they're redundant, is very nice from a driving point of view. It means I can turn my radio on, turn my radio off, control my HVAC, and it's not complicated. I don't have to look away from the drive, and I can just touch the button I want and get back to the drive, which is what's important. Similarly, Infiniti has fitted the QX50 with a heads-up display. I'm looking at it right now. That's a very nice thing, because again, it means you can focus on the drive. You're looking ahead, you're looking at the road. You're not looking down here, you're not looking over here. You're looking exactly where you should be when you're driving a car. Now, I've mentioned the fact this car is a pretty good all-rounder. It does have some sporting intentions. I mean, just look at it. It's obviously very good looking and very athletic looking. To that end, this particular QX50 is rolling on the optional 20-inch wheels, which, one, make it look really cool, and two, do give it a bit of sporting cred. That said, it's never harsh and it doesn't seem to impact the ride quality that unduly. This is still a very comfortable car to use day to day. Los Angeles roads are far from perfect, and this thing has been a pretty comfortable over broken pavement. In fact, I can see my camera shaking right now, but I'm none the worse for the wear. So I mentioned the interior on the QX50. Not only is it beautifully appointed, but I mentioned there's a lot of space in here. Infiniti has done a very good job of their packaging on this car. Although it's compact on the outside, which means it's easy to park, on the inside there's a lot of space, a lot of room. It's also very airy. To that end, the back seat spacing, the more I look at it, the more I play with it, the more impressed I become. The back seats on this car, and I think it's exclusive to this class of vehicle, actually, one, they slide forward, and two, they actually recline. So one, that gives backseat users, one, a lot of comfort, flexibility, and usability, but two, it really does maximize the amount of space and usability of this car. Pretty impressive to say the least. So, initial impressions for the QX50 were very positive. However, it was after the camera shut off that things got interesting. I went full throttle on a freeway on-ramp, and the QX50 completely died for a few seconds, before eventually coming back on and then accelerating. This happened 3 times in a row, and then never did it again during the shoot. An Infiniti engineer was actually riding in the car during the shoot, and he was at a loss when this happened. There were no check engine lights, and the car drove fine afterwards. But this is obviously not a good look for the Infiniti. Next up is the Lexus NX300. Formerly known as the NX200T, for 2018, this baby Lexus SUV is packing a few notable changes. Right off the bat, the Lexus NX seems to be a bit of a disadvantage here. While the other two cars are both brand new models, the NX has been around since 2015. Additionally, it's the smallest of the three, with the smallest interior volume, it has the least amount of horsepower, and it has the worst fuel economy. Though, on the flip side, it is the least expensive of the three as well. Like both the Infiniti QX50 and the new Acura RDX, the Lexus NX is packing a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. That said, this is the least powerful of the group, making just 235 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. The 6-speed transmission in this car is very smooth. Downshifts are very smooth, upshifts are very smooth, and it's generally very unobtrusive. This is nice because it means that the engine and the powertrain kind of falls to the wayside. It falls into the background. You don't really notice it, which is nice. It lends itself to a more luxury atmosphere. Even with the F-Sport designation, this NX is definitely more of a comfortable everyday cruiser. Adding to the ride comfort is the wheel and tire package. Both the Infiniti and the Acura are rocking dubs, but this NX is packing the optional 18-inch wheels. That's an upgrade over the standard 17s. That means there's more sidewall in the tires and a little bit more comfort, a little bit more give. For 2018, Lexus Safety System Plus is now standard equipment on all NX models. That means that even with the basic car, you get things like lane departure warning, emergency braking, adaptive radar-guided cruise control, and blind spot monitoring. So for 2018, Lexus has introduced the option of adaptive variable suspension. I'm a big fan of this on most cars, and the Lexus is no exception. There's a dial here in the center console that allows you to adjust the driving modes of the NX from Eco to Normal to Sport Sharp to Sport Sharp Plus. It's a bit of a long, confusing name, but it does work. Basically, when the car is in Sport Sharp or Sport Sharp Plus, the throttle response firms up, the suspension firms up, and the car does feel a bit more sporty. That said, it's never jarring. From all the different drive modes on the Lexus NX, unsurprisingly, my favorite is Normal, kind of the middle setting. That's where you can tell the engineer spent the most time calibrating things and kind of getting it in a sweet spot, the just right bit of the firm suspension and the comfortable steering and the comfortable throttle response. Like all cars in this segment, the Lexus NX has a nice big screen to play with. And how you play with it is via Lexus's RTI, their remote touch interface, which is basically a touchpad that falls right to your hand beside the shifter. You can control everything via flick. It's like using your finger to control everything, but you don't have to move your hand. It's a really smart idea. For 2018, Lexus has made the RTI interface 30% bigger, which basically means your hand has more room to move around and kind of get the inputs and controls that you're looking for. In making the RTI 30% larger, Lexus is clearly trying to make the system easier to use. However, at no point did I ever really get comfortable using it. Many times my inputs wouldn't do what I wanted them to, and at one point I accidentally set the navigation system to a random destination on the map, only to find that for whatever reason, the navigation guidance couldn't or wouldn't cancel. Not even the Lexus rep, who was in the car with me, could cancel the system or mute it, which is telling. If in-car tech, like these fancy infotainment screens, don't have get-in-and-go usability, they quickly go from cool and convenient to irksome and iresome. If it takes this much brain power to use, it's simply not safe to use while driving and needs to be redesigned. So, as I mentioned, this particular NX300 is an NX300 F-Sport. Now, the F-Sport package bumps up the base price a little bit, but you get a lot of very essential, in my opinion, items. You get the cool 18-inch wheels, and crucially, you get the really cool front and rear bumpers and the nice metallic trim. Those bumpers, in particular, transform the appearance of the NX and give it a much-needed aggressive and muscular stance and appearance. In addition to the exterior changes are a few changes on the inside. We have this nice leather-wrapped steering wheel with paddle shifters for that 6-speed automatic transmission. There's also an F-Sport calibrated suspension, which seems pretty F-sporty, so I guess I nailed it there. But the big thing for me, as I said, is definitely the appearance. It seems like the best way to get the NX is to get the top dog F-Sport trim and just enjoy the way it looks. Being on the open road with the Lexus NX300, like we are now, reveals a very calm, relaxing character. This car is very happy to soak up the miles, like a typical Lexus should. That said, we need to talk about fuel economy. This NX300 F-Sport with all-wheel drive is rated at 22 mpg in the city, 27 mpg in the freeway, and 24 mpg combined. That said, with a cruise control set at 70 miles an hour, I've been watching the instant MPG gauge, and it's been hovering close to the 30 miles per gallon mark, which is really good. We also need to talk about interior materials. Now, in this three-way shootout, all three of these SUVs are supposed to be pretty comparably spec'd. And it's true, all three SUVs have a very comparable base price. That said, as is the way with press cars, sometimes the way they're optioned isn't always apples to apples. To that end, the Infiniti is the most expensive of the bunch by a considerable margin. In fact, it's almost $12,000 more expensive than this particular NX300. So you wouldn't be surprised to find out that of the three, the Infiniti does seem to have the nicest interior, but it's most expensively optioned, so you kind of hope so. That said, despite being the cheapest of the bunch, the NX does have a lot of really nice interior bits going on. Sure, there are a few cheap plasticky bits here and there, but your touch points, the things you actually interact with on a day-to-day basis, your steering wheel, your shifter, your center console, your armrest, those are nice padded quilted leather, and they feel very premium, very expensive. That's a good thing. The NX300 F-Sport has a base MSRP of $39,775, which makes it very competitive in this trio of cars. That said, after you factor in all the nice options and upgrades this particular car has, the price does jump up a little bit to $47,525. So, the Lexus NX300 F-Sport is the least expensive of the three, and it's a pretty good cruiser on the open road. And for many people, that'll be enough to get them in the showrooms. However, with the worst performance stats of the bunch and that dastardly RTI system, it's far from ideal. Well, bring on the Acura. Last but certainly not least in this trio of luxury SUVs is the all-new for 2019 Acura RDX. Much like its competition, it's packing a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine with direct fuel injection. That said, this is making a touch more power than its competition, and with 10-speed automatic, feels a good bit faster, as you can hear. And as you might notice from the video, it also kind of eggs you on. This thing's a lot of fun to drive right out of the box. And I'm not going to say how fast we're going, but it is quick enough. For 2019, the Acura RDX is packing a lot of technology and a lot of innovations. Like that engine, for example. That 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine is producing 272 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, the most in this trio of luxury SUVs. Likewise, behind that advanced engine is a 10-speed automatic transmission. It also has Acura's super handling all-wheel drive with true torque vectoring. This system can control the amount of torque going to each individual wheel. All this advanced technology packed in this 4,000-pound package is good for 21 miles per gallon in the city, 27 miles per gallon on the freeway, and 23 mpg combined with the all-wheel drive. Another area where the RDX is equally competitive is the pricing. The base price of the new Acura RDX is $37,300, though this particular test car rings in at $48,900. Let's break down the option sheet. Starting at just $37,300 and $2,000 more for super handling all-wheel drive, Acura RDX has a lot of standard features. It rides on Acura's amplitude reactive dampers as stock. Those fancy shock absorbers use 2 pistons inside to cancel out the bad frequencies you experience over rough roads. Those dual-eye LED headlights are also standard and work really well. Then there's the big panoramic moonroof, which tilts and slides, as well as the comfy sport bucket seats, which are powered and heated. Additionally, things like Apple CarPlay and mobile device hotspot connectivity are also standard. Last but not least is all the safety tech under the Acura Watch name. It's a lot of acronyms, but I'll try to break it down. First up is CMBS, Collision Mitigation Braking System. Basically, it'll automatically apply the brakes if it thinks there's going to be an accident in front of you. Then there's ACC, Adaptive Cruise Control with Low Speed Follow, where basically you set the cruise control and on a busy interstate, the car will brake and accelerate for you. All you have to do is steer. Then there's LKAS, Lane Keep Assist System, where it uses the front-facing camera to monitor the lanes and keep your car inside the lanes if it thinks you're starting to wander. Then there's FCW, the Forward Collision Warning, where it alerts you if it thinks there's going to be a collision in front of you. Additionally, there's also LDW, Lane Departure Warning, where it's just a warning before it corrects you if it thinks you're going to go over your lane. Obviously, there are parking sensors front and rear, as well as a rear view parking camera as standard. There's also a blind spot information system available. Additionally, there's also auto high beam headlights, which is nice, as well as Acura's next generation advanced compatibility engineering body structure, ACE, which is basically a way of saying they've designed the car to be very, very, very safe in the event of an accident. Got all that? Good. The RDX uses Acura's new True Touchpad interface for the infotainment system. It's similar to the Lexus, where there's a touchpad down by where your palm rests when driving. However, unlike the Lexus system, this one actually works. Where the Lexus system is like an IBM trackpad, clumsy and annoying to operate, Acura has developed a system that looks, feels, and operates like a smartphone. It's intuitive and easy to use, and this alone is a massive selling point for the Acura. It really is that much easier to use, especially while driving. So on paper, these three SUVs seem more similar than they are dissimilar. However, when you get them in the real world, that changes completely. Of the three, the RDX is definitively the sportiest of the bunch. And the way it handles, the way it feels, the responsiveness of the engine, it's no contest the sharpest of the three. This particular RDX is a top trim advanced pack, which starts at $45,400 or $47,400 if you want super handling all-wheel drive. Those standard heated front seats are now able to be cooled. Additionally, the rear seats are also now heated as well. A 10.5-inch heads-up display is also now part of the package, which shows travel data and a heads-up warning if the CMBS comes on. The advanced pack comes with a 16-speaker, 710-watt audio system developed by Panasonic and tuned by Grammy Award-winning music producer Elliot Shiner. To be frank, this is one of the best stereos I've ever heard in any car at any price point. It's truly incredible. Oh, and that front side glass is now acoustically laminated for even quieter cruising. So I know I just got done talking your ears off about the advanced package, but that's actually not the RDX to buy. Hear me out. For $1,900 less and one step below the advanced pack is the RDX A-SPEC, and that's the one to get. The biggest trade-off between the two is no more fancy adaptive shock absorbers, but all the other crucial interior and tech goodies are still there. So what's the big deal? Why the A-SPEC RDX, you may be wondering? Well, in Acura parlance, A-SPEC means cool exterior package. The A-SPEC gets sweet 20-inch wheels, bespoke A-SPEC bumpers, and those fat A-SPEC exhaust tips, as well as black chrome-tinted trim. That last bit is the important one, because that dark trim really does clean up the lines on the RDX and makes it immeasurably more attractive looking. The RDX is the clear winner here. The price tag, standard features list, that engine, the way it drives, it's no contest. End of story.